can I talk about these awful experiences that I can barely even read? There's so much to say to convey the heaviness, uncertainty, the insanity of that time. And do I really even want to share them? It seems everything I'm sharing is so heavy. The adversary speaks loud. Will anyone listen, or will they even want to? I feel discouraged to continue. So, I suppose I must, because God wants me to. And this makes me realize that because I have been feeling resistance, I know I must continue. What I have to offer must be for someone. So, let's get started with vlog number 11. Hi, this is Jennifer Packham. Welcome, my friend, to Defining Moments Vlogs. Have you ever had a defining moment, or perhaps moments that shattered you, leaving you to piece together meaning from chaos, redefining everything? In these vlogs, I share my raw journal excerpts from my life-altering defining moments and the wisdom I've gained from them. I hope they bring you renewed possibilities, clarity, and faith in your toughest moments. On July 3rd, 1992, I decided I will not even try to put into writing all the awful things that my husband had said to me. If I do not write these awful things down, maybe somewhere in the future I will look upon these times with forgetfulness and uncertainty instead of reborn malice or hatred. I simply want all these things to be part of the past, now, and especially in the future. I was grateful that my journals were preserved because if my husband had found them, he would have destroyed them. We met Dr. Bigler, a neuropsychologist, who said my husband met all the requirements for his grant for him to study his brain. It was really awesome to have some MRIs that showed the damage in his brain and what the outcomes were. But even Dr. Bigler didn't fully understand him or what to tell us to do, because he said before my husband went into a psychiatric hospital that perhaps we shouldn't talk about the things that were bothering us. That helped me realize that he truly didn't understand, because it's impossible not to talk about things with a brain injured patient that is perseverating consistently about everything. So that really didn't work too well. He felt like he was being manipulated by people and that he couldn't stand up for himself against them. He felt at that time like his options were severely limited and his options frightened him. He was sick of his life and felt like it was a living hell, that it had been almost a year, and he felt like that reality wasn't going to change. He said he could not live with who he was then and a full knowledge of who he was before. He knew he needed help, but we really couldn't find anyone that seemed to care or that could help us. He also said that he cannot go on living in this environment of apathy and abuse, which he felt from everyone, but that was the way his brain worked at the time. He couldn't process things at all. I believe that the only chance for him to recover his emotional balance would have been through having someone sit down with him from the beginning, before he even left the hospital, and explain how the emotional side of his brain would never give him the accurate feedback that it had before, and he would need to rely on someone else for that. Someone else to help him question the concrete thinking that would arise daily in his brain, and help him understand it was simply part of the brain injury and not his actual reality. He definitely needed accountability whenever he was mean or angry, because that happened all the time, every day. He needed someone to help him relearn positivity. His emotional brain was about the age of a 13-year-old, and other times he had the emotional intelligence of only a 2 or 3-year-old. It was certainly a psychological horror ride for both of us. But if his brain was permanently altered in the area that it was, that controls those positive emotions, was there really any hope that it could ever change? That was a question I asked myself in my journals. He was put into that psychiatric hospital because of a particular day that he left his wedding ring and a note that said he would never return. I was very hopeful that he would receive the treatment he might need. I always had that misplaced hope villain inside me. It was still really strong at that time. I hoped we would find the answers, but all they did was put him on medication, and that medication never really worked. On Wednesday, July 29th, 1992, I wrote, "There is always so much to write. I don't know where to begin. I could fill pages with my experiences lately, but I could never relive them. Perhaps someday I will be able to write them all down and remember. Maybe then it will not be so painful to think about. I know my daughter was sent to help us, to remember to be happy, to give us a reason to laugh and to remain together. But will it be enough? I've cried and cried until I feel numb. Somewhere in my heart, my prayers and questions are answered with a calmness I cannot describe. Then I went on to ask a whole bunch of questions, which I think is what we tend to do when we're in situations that we just can't comprehend and don't know what to do about. I wrote questions like, will we stay married? Will he accept me and my family? Do I still love him? Can I wait the years or months or weeks or however long it takes for him to recover fully? Will he recover fully? Will it ever end? Will we be able to find a doctor who can actually cure? Will someone care enough to help? I wrote that I was beginning to fear what will happen in the future. I was wondering what would happen when that house sold that we remodeled, fixed up, and had for sale. I wondered if it was the extra pressure that was making him crazy. There was a time when I went and spent a few nights at my parents' house where I felt safe, but I just really wanted to be home. I wanted to have my husband home. I wanted to feel normal. I didn't want to argue, didn't want to scream. I didn't want to feel like I was going crazy. I didn't want to feel like I need to hit or be hit. I wanted all the confusion, all the stress, and all the worry to just disappear. I wanted to raise a family. I want to help others. I wanted my husband there, whole and healthy, by my side. I longed for that part of him that was dead, that part that was always there for me when I was hurting, to calm and comfort me. He was always there to reassure me and feel good about myself. I missed his confidence that he had. I wondered who that person was that I was married to. Who said he doesn't love me anymore? I feel hurt, scared, afraid, numb. I wondered why my marriage should dissolve over something neither one of us could control. It just doesn't make sense, I wrote. It simply cannot happen. How can this happen to us this way? I see a glimpse of who he was, and there are parts of him that I still loved. Like how he played with our daughter at times. Like how he desired to do his best with the home and Spanish work. I loved how he liked to go out for picnics or drive in the mountains. I loved him for helping me make dinner or set the table at times. I loved him for sticking out of this condition as long as he had. But the lessons I learned are that there are simply things we cannot comprehend right now on this earth. Why is an endless question anyone could ask about almost anything. In Romans 8:28, it says, "We know that all things work together for good to them that love God." And Elder D. Todd Christofferson of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles has taught, in the midst of this refiner's fire, rather than get angry with God, get close to God. Call upon the Father in the name of the Son. Walk with them in the Spirit day by day. Allow them over time to manifest their fidelity to you. Come truly to know them and truly to know yourself. Let God prevail. I grew spiritually in ways I never could have grown, as I did during these trials. God knows exactly what we need to learn to strengthen us precisely as we need to find joy and choose Him. It took many years, but I discovered who I really am because the Lord loved me enough to let me experience adversity and the blessings that can come with it. And looking back, I'm so grateful for all the experiences I had because it has made me better, stronger, more capable, more faithful. These experiences have literally made me into who I am now. Francis Webster, a member of the Martin Handcart Company that faced severe hardships crossing the plains in 1856, said, "We suffered beyond anything you can imagine. Many died of exposure and starvation. But did you ever hear a survivor of that company utter a word of criticism? Every one of us came through with the absolute knowledge that God lives, for we became acquainted with Him in our extremities. I, too, became acquainted with God in my trials, my struggles, in moments when I asked how and why, when I didn't know how it could go on, when I felt completely alone, when there was no one else to look up to but God, and moments when the homesickness for my Father in heaven seemed overwhelming. I asked why, often, and I never seemed to get a clear answer, except that I do know one of the reasons why we go through these things is for us to learn and grow. Because there is no other way that we could learn those things in any other way. And God knows us perfectly. This I know for sure. My story continues, but until then, keep on keeping on with God.